following is a presentation of the Black Hollywood Live Network, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. Hollywood Redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is Black Hollywood Live, Phenomenal Women, featuring in-depth interviews with today's most inspiring women. Black Hollywood Live, Hollywood Redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host of Black Hollywood Live, Phenomenal Women.
So our song is on. Got a little bit of Whitney Houston every Friday morning. Love my girl. Welcome to another episode of Phenomenal Women on Black Hollywood Live. I'm your host, Ashida Onrae. And with me today, I have the beautiful and fabulous Kristin Borostyan. Did I say that right?
You got that.
I got
You
that right.
Yes, it's a hard one.
I know, right? Who is the CEO and founder of Real College Knowledge, which is actually something that she designed to help bridge the gap between high school and college students and to help their parents so they don't flunk out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So break it down for us. What is Real College Knowledge?
So Real College Knowledge walks students through some of the things when they get to college that they have not been thinking about. Most college kids go off to college thinking, I'm free. I don't have parents telling me what to do. I might have a few classes, right? They have this very Pollyanna view of college. I get a roommate, right? I can eat in the cafeteria and eat whatever and whenever I want, all of that. And while all of that's true, they're still going to college. And college costs are at an all-time high. So the average college is between like $30,000 and $38,000 a year. And so I created Real College Knowledge as a program, really, to help students understand, okay, yeah, you can have a lot of fun in college and it's the best 4 years of your life, but you're also getting an education. And here are some things that you need to know, you know? And so we go through a lot of the skills, the strategies, some of the knowledge that they're going to need to know.
And what are some of the skills and strategies?
So some of the skills and strategies are when you look at the high school model of education, right? Kids are micromanaged. Every 48 minutes they go to a class, they have a 5-minute passing period, right? They have a 26-minute lunch. It's like boom, 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 right? So they're in that world. When they go to college, they might have a class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:45, 12:30, and 3. And then maybe one class on Tuesday and Thursday at 10.
Right.
And they have all this free time. And so what they don't recognize, they understand it, but what they don't do is they don't time manage. They don't put this on their schedule. And then what they don't do is they don't go back and say, okay, well, if I have some of these really hard, classes with labs or with discussion, I've got to be doing all the prep work prior, right? But because they're in that high school mode, they're like, oh, I'll just study at night. Well, what happens at night on college campuses?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yes.
Right, there's movie night, there's karaoke, there's a party, right? So kids have to adjust how they schedule themselves so that maybe they're going to the library at 3:30 right after their class to study and prepare and get everything down so that at night they can have some fun.
Now, how would someone prepare in college? What's the advice that you would give for parents and students to really start preparing them from college, even though they're already managed? Does that start in their senior year or should that start in their junior year?
Really, I start most kids, if they're, with me in my program, their junior year, because those are skills that once you start doing them, you build up habits for them and then they stick with you, right? So you don't have that high learning curve the freshman year. So yeah, the time management, using an e-calendar and really understanding how much time things take. A lot of kids, especially when they get their license, I think parents really should sit down with them and say, okay, do you know how long it takes to drive to school now? Because kids think they can get up in 10 minutes and get out the door and park their car and get into school. Well, no, they're going to be late, right? It's the same thing with college campus. Kids need to understand that if they live in a dorm that's kind of on the outskirts of campus and their class is all the way on the other side of campus, it's 30 minutes to walk there. They need to plan, 45 minutes to get themselves down the stairs and across campus. That is not in their world. They're just used to this very quick high school, planning. So I think parents can really help their children by talking to them about that. The other thing that I know I'm kind of guilty of this myself as a mom, but we help our kids a lot. We're doing their laundry, we're making a lot of their meals, we're picking things up for them because they forgot them. Kids need to start doing that in high school so that they know how to do their own laundry. They know how to organize themselves, right? They know how to, oh my God, I forgot that paper. How can I run home at lunch and get it? Because when college hits, mom's not living with you.
Right.
And so you need to know those self-reliant skills. You have to rely on yourself to get that done. And the kids that I find that start that now, junior, senior year, are so much better off their freshman year because they're not relearning all of that.
So take me through with the real college knowledge. It preps the parents and the students.
Right.
So take us through some of your services so our viewers can know what real college, what real college knowledge is.
I have 2 tracks for students and parents, and I do that purposefully because I think kids need different skills and a place to talk about what's, their fears are without their parents. Because I have a lot of parents say, well, can we do this together? And I'm like, no, we cannot. And here's the reason why. I give basically the same information, but I tailor the information for the students so that they're not only practicing the skills, learning the skills, but then we're talking about what they're nervous about. And we're saying, okay, what would a solution to that be? Like, I'm nervous to live with somebody. Right? Or I'm nervous to go up to a professor and say, I didn't do well on this test. Like they're shy, they're intimidated. They're on this prestigious campus with probably some great professor and they're like, how am I even going to do that? So we talk about those things. With parents, it's more about, okay, here's what your child's going to go through, right? And that happens in my hookups and vodka class. And that title,
Hookups and Vodka. You got to tell me more about that. That's catchy.
Well,
I like that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. And I get a lot, I get like your reaction,
Yes.
hookups and vodka, what?
Yes.
And then I get hookups and vodka. I don't want to talk about that because the reality of college life today is much different than when we went. Kids have access to so much more on the internet. They're just smarter than we were. And I think once parents really understand that kids are drinking, right? Kids are hooking up. There are things that are happening on college campus and become aware of it and have those conversations with your child. Hey, are you going to have a relationship in college? Are you looking to date? Are you looking to party? What does that look like for you? Because a lot of the high school parties are, kind of managed by parents again, right? They're in somebody's backyard or in somebody's basement or something. The reality of college is that they have all this freedom with very little supervision. And, parents need to realize that this is what's going on college campuses.
So you provide counseling to the parents to prep them of what's getting ready to happen. Their kids are going to be older and the possible dangers. And then you prep the students as well to help them navigate through that new journey they're getting ready to embark on, which is college.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. I'm going to use that soundbite. It is true. It's true because a lot of kids, while they sort of know what's going to happen, until somebody says you're living with a stranger in a 16 by 20 room and you have to get along for 9 months, when most of our kids have their own room and their own bathroom.
Yeah.
That's
a transition.
That's a transition. And even though you've done like the Match.com roommate thing where, you kind of figure it out, they have their, little oddities. I'm sure you have your little oddities, right? And a lot of kids don't realize that, they could have different majors, and so their schedules are very different. So somebody might have a lot of morning classes, somebody has late afternoon or evening classes. Well, how do you negotiate that if you want to have people back in your room and your roommate needs to study? Because that's their study time. So there's a lot of negotiation, and kids don't practice those skills in high school as much as they should because they don't have to. They're friends with these kids for 4 years. Some of them, think about it, through middle school or even elementary. Some kids go through K through 12 with the same kids.
Yes.
So they know you. They know how crazy you are. They know some of your, little oddities or whatever. When you go and you have to now tell somebody, hey, this is really bothering me. Or, can we turn off the TV at midnight? Can we agree to that? That's a hard conversation to have if you've never had it. And most of our kids haven't. So it's like, how do you even bring that up? So we talk about that. Here's a nice way to bring that up.
And speaking of topics, because I'm going to go back to when I went to college, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. One of the things that the high school offers is counselors.
Right.
And I wanted to go to Howard University. And the counselor persuaded me not to go. But how do you I listened to her more than I actually listened to my mom. And that can cause a conflict because there was a real drive and passion for me to go to Howard University. And she told me not to because it was, of course, it's an all-black college, just in case, our viewers don't know what Howard University is. And she said it's not realistic in the real world, so you won't really get a great education. And I was like, okay. And it made sense at the time. I was 17 years old. At the time, it made sense, but I didn't discuss that with my mom. How can parents talk with their children to make sure they're not persuaded by outside influences that could be negative and draw them into a completely different path than where they want to go?
Yeah, I think one of the key things there is that when kids could bring that information home to parents and say, here, this is what I heard, parents need to have like a little alarm going off in their head, like, didn't we discuss Howard? Like, wasn't that on your, your list of schools to apply? Why would she be saying that? What is her advice for that? And then have a discussion on, well, do you think that's true? Because I think a lot of kids know intuitively, like you probably know, like that's probably one of the things that you didn't do that you regret, right? Is going there. It's like one of those like, oh, I just wish I would have done it, and even if it didn't work out or whatever and you had to come back, at least you tried it, right?
Yeah. Now, with your services with Real College Knowledge, do you provide a service where you can talk with the parents and the counselor and the student to help them kind of say, okay, let's figure this out together?
Yeah, I typically don't have that conversation because people who have hired a college counselor outside of their high school do a very comprehensive job. So if you had some, let's say, outside help, I call it outside counsel, right? Somebody looking from really an objective, unemotional view at your child and saying, oh, here's their scores, here's their GPA, here's, good fit schools for them. They want to study this, they want to live here, whatever. They make really good decisions about that. So I don't typically get involved with that. But I have had conversations with parents around the finances of it, because a student will get into, let's say, a Duke or a UPenn, a $50,000, $60,000 a year school, and that's going to be a stretch for parents. And I say, well, okay, they got in, but if there's not money to go, what might be a better option? So I have had that conversation.
So you help with the financials as well as
just having that conversation, because I feel like, it's your undergrad degree and you want to make the best, choice you can. But at the same time, if it's really going to stretch you financially, I'm sure your second dream school or even your third, which is probably more affordable, is going to give you everything you need, and then think about that kind of school for graduate work. I think having a $200,000 undergraduate education, having those kind of loans are outrageous.
Yeah, that's
heavy. And you have to make a good decision around that because, just recently I read Gallup poll just came out with some crazy statistic that most kids today are taking out loans and have debt when they graduate of over $50,000.
Wow.
And they're equating when these kids graduate, they're like a wellness factor to them, and they are not doing well because the pressure of the debt. They don't have the energy to do things as much as they would. They have less of a sense of purpose because they're like, I'm just drowning in debt. I can't buy a car, I can't buy a home, I can't move on to the next stage because I'm in all this debt. So that is a piece I like parents to think about too. Yeah, you can take out a loan, but what's that loan going to do to your child when they're 23 years old and they're looking to go on to the next stage of their life?
Absolutely. That's a good point. And I want to hit you with, three top questions that I would like to ask you. What, outside of financial aspect, because everyone always looks at, especially the parents, they always look at more of the financial. What are the three big college shockers outside of financial? Because we already know that.
Right. The three big college shockers are the things that actually trip kids up their first semester in college, if you will. And I think 99% of kids go through them. When I talk about these, like with adults or with kids who are just out of college, they're like, oh yeah, these trip me up. The first one is the 24-hour, 7 days a week freedom. Like I was saying, right? In high school, they're micromanaged. Mom knows where they're at. They're sleeping in their house, right? They go to college, and honestly, they go a little crazy because it's kind of a free-for-all. It's kind of like, well, I have these classes, but look at all this free time. I can join all these activities. Here in LA, there's all kinds of things to do. You can get on a bus and go anywhere. Kids who go to the school at the beach are at the beach, right? And they're just not paying attention to some of the more responsible things. They're just like, I have all this freedom. I have no one telling me what to do. So
And that's so true, because when I went to college, I couldn't have sugar cereal. So when I went off to Cal State Northridge and lived in the dorm in the first year, I bought all this sugar cereal. So you're like, there's no one telling me no.
That's exactly what it is,
But I had
right?
the worst stomach ache ever.
But still, like that, and that's such a small thing.
That is
Ashida, I have
small.
to tell you, that's like sugar cereal. Ooh,
That was so big for me at the time.
But think about it, right? And you can think that parents wouldn't let kids, let's say, go to parties. Well, you can imagine there's a party in the dorm or at the frat or at somebody's house. Those kids are going to that party now because they're like, Mom can't tell me what to do, right? It's that whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. The second one is the roommate dilemma. It's living with somebody. That is a hard adjustment for anybody. I mean, we've all probably shared hotels with people we can remember. Oh, okay, it's almost like you're a guest in your own space. And actually, that's how I pose it to my kids for like the first 3 months, is to really be a guest in your own dorm room, so that you're saying please and thank you, and you're being courteous. Because if you move in just thinking that this is your space, you might be infringing on their space.
Right.
And negotiating things, because in the beginning it's this honeymoon stage. It's like, I have a roommate and she's taking this, and we matched our sheets, and I'm bringing the printer and she's bringing the fridge, right? They're just like so happy because it's new, it's exciting. Of course, this is a big, it's a rite of passage for college, if you will, right? To live with somebody.
Absolutely.
But there's so many things that living with somebody comes with, right?
Yes.
And so you have to have a conversation about, and I call them my non-negotiables. And those are things that can't happen in the bedroom when I'm there. So like for me, one of mine was, if I go home, I don't want anybody sleeping in my bed. Right? Like, you can have people over, but they can't spend the night and sleep in my bed. Like, for me, that was like, no. So I have the kids actually think about that and then have a conversation with their roommate about that. Can you borrow my shoes? Well, I don't know. Let's talk about that. Here are the things you can borrow. Here, this is what you can't borrow. And kids don't typically have that conversation because they're in that honeymoon stage.
Absolutely. And what would you say the last shocker
the
is?
last shocker is really the whole overall adjustment to college. It's called adjustment disorder. And it's going from a very known situation, high school, living with your parents, right? Knowing the friends you've had for years and years, to college. College is a huge institution. There's lots of expectations, right? If you're going to, especially a very prestigious school, right? You have the affluence of that, like, ooh, I'm at, Harvard or Yale or Cornell. And it's the adjustment to living on your own, doing everything for yourself. You have to manage your laundry. You need to now get yourself up in time, get breakfast down in the Commons, get yourself to class, figure out when your laundry needs to be done. And, how am I going to study? I'm a person that needs a study group. How am I going to find a study group? It's all of those adjusting, things that go into just making it in college.
And those are the top 3 things that you help with prior to them leaving.
Yeah. And these really, all kids at some point, they will go crazy and not manage their time and not plan enough for a test and flunk a test, right? Because that happens.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
can study the night before. No, you can't.
Which
Not in
I've
college.
done.
Yeah, not in college you can't, right? And then, the roommate, they almost always have a roommate situation. I don't know if you live with somebody.
Actually, I had 5.
Okay, and how was that situation?
It was, you know what? In honesty, it was because you wanted to lower the cost of your living expenses. So you had the option of choosing more than one roommate. I chose the 5.
Right.
So it was 6 of us total.
Yeah.
And it was a culture shock because I had one that was extremely religious, that was a Christian, down to the bone. If you did anything wrong, she will criticize you. Then I had another young lady who was disowned by her family because, she was dating outside of her race.
Oh.
Then I had the party girl, who and
We
her
always
and her
have one of
we
those,
always
don't
have
we?
the party girl.
We always have the girl.
Her and her boyfriend would party all the time.
Yep.
And it was always something going on. Then you had me, who was chill, just more relaxed and kind of motherly like. And then you had the extreme quiet one.
So you had, I think you had every personality.
I had every personality. And it was hard. It was difficult because some people are neat. Some people are not. Some people cook. Some people are selfish with their food. Some people label their food, do not ever touch it. You couldn't share. So it's all of those things that encompasses what you would go through in real life.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we have someone like you that thought of this brilliant idea to help the parents and the students before they get there.
Right.
I didn't have that help.
No, none of us did.
Yeah.
And, quite honestly, when my daughter was going off to college, she's now a senior at University of Maryland, but when she was going, she was probably right between junior and senior year. And I was like, okay, where is this program? I mean, I used to be a school counselor. So I'm like, this program exists somewhere. These are the skills I teach middle school kids, right? So this is basic counseling. And I'm like, is there a class I can take? I go to orientation with her and I'm like, okay, so where's the class on life skills, how to get along with people, how to negotiate if you have an issue with the roommate, all these things. And they're like, well, we don't have a class like that. We're expecting your kids to come in prepared. And I'm like, from where? High school? Because high school is all about getting into college. It's not about these skills, right? So it didn't exist. So that year when she went off, I was helping her with that. I was also helping some other students organize for their dorm room and work on their time management, like, just little things. It wasn't as comprehensive as my program is now, but as she went that first year, that's when I was like, I think I need to create this. I need to build this. And here I am today.
I love it. And real college knowledge
Real
was
college
born.
knowledge is here.
Yes.
My baby's here.
So outside of the financial, I want to ask you another really good question. What are the 3 biggest fears parents have outside of finances that you can touch on?
This I really cover in, the hookups and vodka, because every parent, and it's mostly moms, I have to be honest. I'll get a few dads going through my program, but it's mostly moms. The number one thing, hands down, even before I get to the slide to tell them about it, they're like, but what if my child never contacts me again and I have no idea what he's doing in college? Their fear is that they're going to go away and disappear. And a lot of that stems from, here's our kiddos graduating high school. They've got themselves into college. They've done everything we've asked as moms, right?
Right.
So they want some freedom over the summer, but they're still living at home and mom's not quite ready to let them go yet, right? So there's still some rules. There's still some things they have to do. And it's kind of like they butt heads a little bit, right? If you think about it. And so mom's fear is because they're not really getting along and the kid's kind of, pushing mom away. Mom, I'm in college now. You got to treat me like I'm the 18, 19-year-old that I am, that they feel like I'm not going to hear from him again. And it's sad. And I'm like, okay, you won't hear from them again. Not again, but you won't hear as much as you would like the first, let's say, 3 weeks.
Right.
Because what colleges do, colleges are looking at branding your child. They are getting them to the football games. They want them to join the activities. Rush happens if you're doing a sorority or fraternity, right? All this campus stuff. Your dorm room is having karaoke night, and ice cream social night, and, all the games that they play, right? All the stuff so that kids meet each other and start to fall in love with their new home. Because the colleges know this is a hard adjustment. And so there's not really a lot of time to be talking on the phone to mom because they're like, wait, where am I supposed to be now? And they do like a dry run through their schedule. They're very busy, like literally from 8 in the morning, I think, until about midnight. There's something going on the first couple of weeks to really get them into that mode. Then about week 3 is when I tell my parents something's going to happen, and it's going to be something phenomenal. Like your child's going to call and be like, you will not believe the professor I have. We're going to go out and dig for bones and look for dinosaurs, right? Like whatever the class they took is. Or there's going to be, hey mom, remember that roommate? We're having some issues and I'm not really sure how to deal with it. So either way, they're going to swing back. And I think that parents just have to be patient and say, you know what? There'll be something. You've been raising your child for 18 years. Of course he's going to call you. Of course they're going to, reach out to you. You're their safe place. And when you think about college, and, I pose this to all the kids and it takes them a minute to understand. But I said, think about how you live in your house now and you have your own room.
Yeah.
You don't have that at college. You have to actually share it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people.
Absolutely.
And so you can't just go into
In
your
bunk
room.
beds.
Yeah, and you can't just go into your room, slam the door, right? And be like, I'm furious, and just leave me alone for an hour.
Yeah.
You might have your roommate walking in. So, you have these issues where kids are like, oh, but I have my room on campus. And I'm like, yeah, but on campus, that's the only thing that's yours. That's your only haven. That's it. And you share it.
Yes.
So you have to make sure that space is calm and whatever. And so, there's always going to be things. But yeah, that's the number one fear for parents is that they're not going to talk to them again. And my best advice also is to just give it time, get yourself busy, right? Like you become the busy bee. You get back in your book club. You start working out. You reconnect with the kids in your family because you've been in this college vortex of getting your kid into college, right? So it's all you've been talking about. have date night with your sweetie, right? Like, get back into busy those first 3 weeks so you're not like, I wonder if he's alive, on
Yeah,
your phone.
yeah.
And then I also say plan the, whatever parent weekend, or if you're going up for a football game, plan that so that you can, you can see them in about 4 weeks or so. That's about when Parents Week happens. So you can feel like, okay, in a month, I can make anything for a month. I can see him.
Yeah.
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 The second thing parents are nervous about is how well kids are prepared for college. And when all of us moms, because I count myself right there with you, I have one who's a senior in college and one who's a senior in high school, do they have those skills that they're going to need to be successful, because I'm making a huge investment in their education and I want to make sure they're doing the right thing. And I think when parents sit real quietly, they go, ooh, my kid is not managing his time well. He's terribly unorganized, right? He doesn't know how to advocate for himself. Like, whatever those things are, or maybe even, he got by in high school studying because the teachers really gave them a study guide to study off of before the test. No professor's giving you a study guide. So what are his study habits going to be? Yeah. So you think about those things as a mom and you go, okay, are they as prepared as they could be? Mm-hmm. And typically the answer is no. There's always these holes. And I always ask my moms, because some of my moms will be like, oh yeah, my son is totally ready. He got into so-and-so, Northwestern, university, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so would you leave your 18-year-old home alone for 2 weeks right now? And the moms are like, no. And I'm like, okay, so why? What are the things that they're lacking that you wouldn't leave them home in your house, yet when you send them off to college in a few weeks, they're home alone at college?
So you really get the parents to really think.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have to just go, oh,
Yeah.
you know what?
Yeah.
We need help in this area.
We need help in this area.
That's really good.
And I love when my parents can do two things. One, they can have a talk with their child about some of the things they hear, with me, and then have a program that supports what I'm saying, because, not everybody's listening to their mom, right?
Exactly.
Realistically, you should be having these conversations, right? But it helps to have reinforcement, right? Somebody else saying the same thing, right? In a little different way. And then finally, third is safety. We all want our kids to be safe on college campuses, and quite honestly, they're not.
No.
The theft is out of control. That's the biggest one. And then the sexual assaults that are happening. Yeah. I don't know if you were paying attention this summer to the Senate hearings.
I was quite shocked at the time when I went to college. Mine was number 3.
Number 3 what?
The highest sexual
assault.
Yes.
Oh.
And I was like, Northridge?
Wow. So out of the state schools?
Out of the state schools. I couldn't believe it. Yes.
Yeah, that's a scary statistic.
It's very scary.
Right.
And I lived through it through one of my roommates. Her friend was assaulted. Mm-hmm. And so that made me realize that I'm really in the real world. Yeah. And it wasn't the serial. Yeah. It wasn't me being on my own. It wasn't me, scheduling my own classes. It was the fact that someone was hurt so close to me and I didn't have the opportunity to run home. My mom was a phone call away, and that's what made me realize I was in the real world. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
That's the real world.
So I'm just so proud that you started this to help these parents and kids to be ready for this. Yeah. Now I want to ask you something about ACE formula. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, my ACE formula.
Yes. Or ACE. I say ACE.
It is. It is. It's my ACE formula.
ACE formula.
And it's funny because I'll say I want to practice our ACE formula. The kids are like, oh, is this about grades? And I'm like, no, it can be. But really it applies to anything that they're maybe struggling with. You apply this formula. So A stands for anticipate the pitfalls. Right? So we know you might have an issue living with your roommate. Okay, so C, we're going to cultivate some strategies and solutions to deal with those issues and those pitfalls, right? So that E, you can be empowered for success, right? So that you kind of know ahead of time what is going to happen. So you've already thought about it, right? It's in your head. Oh, I'm going to have a conversation like this. Or I'm going to, make sure the first couple of days I go and meet the professor when it's nice and quiet and nobody has issues. And I'm just going to introduce myself so that I feel comfortable when I have an issue to go to my professor.
Right.
It's those things, and you can apply it to anything. So the ACE formula applies to any situation. And once kids really understand that it's really about the strategies and solutions that will help them, then their recovery, Ashida, is so much quicker. So like they're going to have issues with their roommate.
Right.
They're going to have issues maybe with a professor who gave them a grade and they're like, oh, I did not deserve that grade.
Right.
Right? I've had that. Oh, that was a lot of work and I got that grade, right? And you need to then have, within yourself, the confidence to go and say, hey, tell me where I went wrong, right? Can we sit down and have a conversation because your boyfriend can't be in my room 4 or 5 nights a week just hanging out. It's uncomfortable for me. I can't even put on jammies, right? I can't be comfortable in my own room. Those kind of conversations. And if they know that, and then things get tripped up, they recover so much faster because they know what to do. It's not like they're waiting weeks and the turmoil is happening and they're kind of depressed about it, right? And it goes on and on. They're like, now it's too late. I can't say anything. It's been a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to nip it right when you can. Put those strategies in place so that, you have success. And the best thing that I find is that if kids do just a couple of these little ones and they get success because they're like, oh, that worked.
Yes.
Then they get that next notch of confidence so that the next thing that happens, they know to do it right away and they keep going. And that's how I think, the kids who go through my program, that's how I think their first semester, even though they had those hiccups and those little things happen, at the end they can say, you know what, I knew how to deal with it and I had a great year.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. It's about, I'm going on to sophomore year, right?
Absolutely. And I'm staying.
I'm staying. I haven't stumbled around trying to figure it out and couldn't figure it out. And now I'm either flunking classes or I have to drop out because I just can't manage myself in college.
Right. Well, I want to ask you 2 more questions before we close. And one of the question is, is there a difference between getting ready for your son as opposed to a daughter? Because I know some parents have, they have sons and they have a daughter.
Right.
But is there a difference between the two?
It's not necessarily a difference because the conversations still need to happen, right? So even if you have a son, you should be talking to him about hookups and vodka.
Right.
If you have a daughter, you should be talking to her about hookups and vodka. I think the difference comes is that some parents think of their son as ready to go for whatever reason because he now looks like a man, right? That the dangers aren't as severe for him because he's a man. Whereas our daughter going off, we know those statistics for girls being harmed on campus. And so it's like, ooh, for our girls, we almost need to give them a little bit extra. And I actually think that girls just need extra time processing. When I work with the boys, they talk about all kinds of stuff. And once they can kind of talk it through, they're good. When I talk with girls, we could talk for days about stuff, right? Like women like to connect. They like to have that, they like to have things ironed out, right?
Yes,
they like
absolutely.
relationships too. Can we talk about the roommate issue again? Yes, let's go there. So I've created the program, the Stiletto Advantage, to do that. So not only do we kind of go deep with some of the girls' issues and give them time to sort of iron out that for themselves. Whereas my boys they hear it and they know it. I don't know. It's just where they're at.
Right. Men are kind of like, okay, I got it.
Yeah,
yes.
They do.
Yes.
They roll with it. Where my girls are like, well, what if that, they'll give me like 50 million scenarios. And I'm like, okay, so after like 49, I'm like, okay, do you really think that's going to happen? Right. I don't know about that. So, and then within that context, we talk about honing in on their intuition, which I think is really, really key for girls. I don't think a lot of our high school girls have built up their intuition because they're in a safe environment with high school. They know their friends. If they're dating somebody, he's most likely in their circle, right? They don't have to really get that on. They do on college campus. We talk about personal safety, how to keep them safe at parties, when they're walking, all of it. And then I teach some simple self-defense moves so that at the end of it,
I like that.
I know. So at the end of it, they know how to stand.
Go, Kristin.
Yeah. And, I teach it because, girls don't punch, right? We're not punchers. Like maybe in a
pull
class.
Hair.
Yeah, we pull hair, which is, okay, really? You're right about that. I've seen that. But I talk to them about, okay, we're really not going to punch somebody. Like that's unrealistic, I think, for most women, unless you're in some kind of class. So I talk to them about holding their hands in what I call leopard hands, which is this, because this is how I want you to hit him. I want you to hit him here, like here, in the eyes.
Yeah.
Or I want you to take your knuckles and hit his throat or his eye or box his ears because your knuckles will hurt. And let me tell you, you make contact more with this than you will with this.
Right.
Because you don't know enough to hit here. You'll probably hit here or something else. And you can
Right.
get hurt in the process. And really what I want my girls to understand is it's like a 1-2 kind of thing. You know, it's just like you're trying to get away from a situation and you want to do some damage. And so you punch in a way that, you know, a soft area where you know, ooh, that's going to hurt. You know, you get hit in the nose just a little bit and you're like, ooh, that hurt.
That hurt, yeah.
It's enough for them to be stunned and enough for you to get away. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. So before we close, take us through all of your programs, because we talked a lot about several different programs and
do.
self-defense.
Yes.
So take us through the Real College Knowledge programs, and then let us know which one is which, as far as, the stiletto and
Right. Okay.
Real clothes.
So sophomore and junior students would start in the Straight Talk, which is your 6 action steps to getting into your college of your dreams. And that's just an overview of what colleges are looking for,
Okay.
right? It's very basic, but that's where I also teach some skills in organization, time management, advocacy, right? So I'm starting that then. The parent program that goes along with that is called Playing the College Admissions Game. And it's like, here's what you need to watch out for. Exactly what happened to you, where somebody gave you misinformation and you took that information and ran with it. I talk about that in that course. So those are like my high school classes.
Okay.
Once kids graduate, they would be in the Countdown to College progression. The Hookups and Vodka is a parent program, right? And so my parents go through that. I have an Advantage program, and that is the student base. It's both boys and girls, the skills, the knowledge, the solutions, all the stuff that we're going to talk about. I have an entire workbook that we start with, and it's really fun. I do a visualization. I have them just sit and have a big piece of paper and say, how do you see yourself on campus? And so that they can kind of vision, you know, I really would like more downtime. Or I love how in the fall, I would like to be, you know, out at football games and, you know, participating. And so they map it out so that when they go, they can actually have those things be attracted to them, right? We talk about goal setting. We talk about all that in there. And then finally, my Stiletto Advantage is my girls only safety program. And we, you know, sit and talk for a while about the issues that they're nervous about so that we can put some solutions around those and actually like take down some fears. And then really get them feeling empowered so that they can strut onto campus feeling like, okay, I got this.
I love that.
Yeah. And so those are my programs. And really, you know, if you have a daughter, you take all 3. You go Hookups, Advantage, and Stiletto Advantage.
Okay.
And that's more of a boot camp, I should say, because it's only about a 2.5 or 3 hour webinar. And in that, you know, we're going through it. If you just have your son, you would just do the 2, right? Because that other one doesn't, you know, doesn't apply. Yeah.
I love that. Real college knowledge. I love it.
college
Thank you
knowledge.
so much for being with me.
Thank you
You're
for
a phenomenal
having me.
woman for starting this,
Thank
because
you.
I didn't have it when I was growing up. And
I didn't either. I could have used it. To be honest, it took me 7 years to get out of undergrad, and I'm like, this program would have really benefited me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Kristin Borostyan. Yes, because the spelling, I always want to say Jean or something like that. But Borostyan, thank you so much. For more information, please go to the website, www.therealcollegeknowledge.com. And you can find her on Twitter at, what's your Twitter handle?
At Straighten One Up.
Straighten One Up on
Yes.
Twitter, and therealcollegeknowledge.com. My name is Ashida Onrae. I'm your host for Phenomenal Women for Black Hollywood Live, and I look forward to inspiring you next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.
Thanks for watching Black Hollywood Live on YouTube. For more in-depth interviews and news, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion in the comment section below here. See you soon, everyone. Bye.